The man with the first face transplant, a story that shocked the world. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the face staring back at you in the mirror is no longer your own. A face you once knew is gone forever, replaced by another stitched, rebuilt, borrowed from someone who no longer walks this earth. This is not science fiction. This is the true, haunting, and groundbreaking story of the man who became the first human ever to receive a full face transplant. Tonight, we dive into one of modern medicine's most extraordinary, risky, and controversial procedures, a journey that changed one man's life forever and challenged the world's understanding of identity, hope, and survival. Before the groundbreaking surgery, there was tragedy. The man at the center of this story, Isabelle de Norris, a French woman, was the first ever to receive a partial face transplant in 2005. But years later, the first full face transplant would change medical history forever. This procedure was later perfected on several patients, but one man stood out: Richard Norris, a man from Virginia, USA, who suffered a catastrophic shotgun injury to his face in 1997. For 15 years, Richard lived in near isolation, hiding from the world, enduring over 30 reconstructive surgeries that never restored his appearance or functionality. His story is one of unimaginable pain, resilience, and hope. Richard's life changed in a split second after a tragic firearm accident. The shotgun blast obliterated his nose, jaw, and most of his teeth. He was left unable to eat properly, smell, or even speak clearly. For years, he wore a mask in public, endured whispers and stares, and battled depression and hopelessness. Doctors tried every surgical method known at the time, but traditional reconstruction could not repair the damage. Richard's face was gone, and with it, much of his will to live, until medical science offered one final, desperate option: a full face transplant, something never before successfully attempted on such a scale. The concept of transplanting an entire face was considered nearly science fiction. The challenges were enormous. A face contains thousands of tiny blood vessels, nerves, and muscles that must be perfectly reconnected. There was a huge risk of rejection, where Richard's immune system could destroy the donor face. The surgery required a 24-hour operation, hundreds of medical professionals, and technology that had never been tested in this way. In 2012, after 15 years of living in the shadows, Richard finally got the call. A donor had been found, a man who tragically died, but whose family agreed to give Richard the chance of a new life. In March 2012, Richard underwent the most extensive face transplant in history, a 36-hour surgery at the University of Maryland Medical Center. Surgeons removed his damaged face and replaced it with the donor's new jaw, teeth, tongue, skin, and facial muscles. Reconnection of arteries, veins, and over 100 different nerves. Skin grafting to ensure a natural appearance. When Richard woke up for the first time post-surgery, he had a face again. Not his old one, but one that allowed him to breathe normally, smell, speak clearly, and eat solid food for the first time in over a decade. While the surgery was groundbreaking, it came with heavy risks. Richard would have to take immunosuppressant drugs for life, making him vulnerable to infections. There was no guarantee his body wouldn't reject the face. He would never truly know his new face. It would forever be a mix of his features and the donor's. The psychological toll was immense. Richard had to learn to accept a face that wasn't truly his, while grieving the loss of his old identity. When the story broke, Richard became a global sensation. News outlets called him the man with a borrowed face. The world was stunned by what science had achieved, but debates raged. Was it ethical to transplant a face? Could this change how society defines personal identity? Was Richard's survival worth the lifelong risk of rejection? Despite controversy, his story gave hope to burn victims, accident survivors, and countless others with severe facial trauma worldwide. Today, Richard lives a far more normal life than he ever dreamed possible. He eats, smiles, and talks without pain. He has regained confidence and no longer hides his face in public. He has become an advocate for organ donation and trauma victims. Though his life will never be completely free from medical complications, he says, "I finally feel human again." Richard's surgery paved the way for dozens of other successful transplants worldwide. What was once science fiction is now a life-saving reality for people who thought their lives were over. This medical breakthrough has changed how doctors view reconstructive surgery forever and redefined what it means to restore not just a face, but a life. The story of the first full face transplant isn't just about science or medicine. It's about identity, resilience, and what it truly means to live. Richard Norris's journey from tragedy to hope reminds us that even after the darkest moments, there is a chance to start again, even with a new face, a new life, and a new reason to keep going. If you found this story inspiring, shocking, or life-changing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Epic Chaos for more unbelievable true stories from around the world.